So shall we start?
Yes.
Okay. So today what we are going to discuss is on the distractions or obstacles what comes in the path. One of the biggest obstacle we get is the doubt whether this path is correct or wrong. Is there anyone who has achieved it or not? And if somebody has achieved it, how does he or she look? That is what we had covered in earlier chapters also. But this is the doubt what one gets. And then he requires or she requires somebody as the mentor. And then the question comes whether that mentor has achieved or not achieved. If he or she is not achieved, is it worth enough to go there or not to go there? And then if the person has achieved, how did he achieve and what is that I can learn out of it? So all of these are distraction of doubt. So generally most of the beings or most of the humans, they don't take that plunge into the path, whichever path they have chosen, because they have a doubt whether this will work or not work, and they feel that life is an endless. That means they seem to exist all the days without realizing that's not the truth. So they feel that if I go on the wrong path, then I will not get, and they don't know the path, so that nobody can say it is right or wrong. So basically, there are two paths. One is on the bhakti, and one is or the bhuta, and another one is on the chitta. These are only two paths. There is no third path. All the concepts, whichever, whatever has been worked in whichever religion or whatever is said, is on these two paths. So this is the first obstacle what a person gets, and his mind or her mind gets completely distracted, and the person starts pondering over that doubt. Then the second obstacle is attachment to rituals. So they might do all kind of rituals and belief system, saying that if this is real, then that is also real. So let us say I am a devotee of so and so. The moment I am a devotee, it means I am devoted to that. That means I surrender to that. So now, as in my eyes, whoever else is not that, then either they have to get uh, what is converted to what I believe, or they are not good enough to be there. So some religions follow that to tooth and nail because they have that belief system that this is the only thing any human being has to do, because there is tremendous amount of attachment to the religious identities and rites and rituals, concepts, or the belief system of this happens and that happens, whether it is proven or unproven, it's factual or fabricated, or whatever it is. The person starts to appreciate and believe and make it as a real hard hitting thing within himself or herself. So this is the second biggest obstacle out of the two obstacles. So one is the doubt, another one is attachment to this process and rites and ritual, religion, tradition, concepts, or whatever it is. And in that, both merge into something called as views. So my view is a right view and your view is a wrong view, or your view is a right view and my view is a wrong view. So we just keep on arguing over the views, because the perception, what is created in the mind, is what the person is fighting along with. So basically, he or she doesn't understand that it's only a perception, and perception are not realities, they are perception, that's all. So we all have perceptions because of the tradition or because of the religion, because of the identity, whatever is there. So at this stage, the person is not able to see what is he trying to do. The job is to uncondition, not recondition. It's already conditioned. The mind is already conditioned to believe in a certain way. And that when condition is to be removed, you get doubt, because the mind becomes really not that excited. It starts to feel out of context or out of its own existence. So it wants to re-establish. And re-establishing cannot happen without rites and rituals and the belief in religious traditions. The person doesn't see that before he was born, the religion and the tradition, everything existed, but in the stomach of the mother, he didn't have any religion at all. He didn't have any identity at all. So, what are we trying to do is to go to that reality which did not have any condition. There was no condition set by the parent that this kind of child should establish in my stomach. And this is how the child attribute should be. That was never the case. So it's a way of uncluttering ourselves after we have seen that it is foolishness to take all of this as truth. Now we are unwinding it or unconditioning it or unbinding it. And that is called as nirvana, because the chittas will not move once you totally unbind it or remove that movement, remove that vritti. Vrittis are these doubts and these rituals and traditions and concepts and opinions and views, and all of that is termed as the one which distracts the other. So the concepts distracts the belief and the belief distracts the concept. So person will keep on fighting with what is right and what is not right and get severely caught up in the doubt. After these two, the third comes something called as drowsiness. The person feels very sleepy. Okay, so this sleep is induced sleep. That means he has slept, but he wants to meditate. He cannot really put himself on the meditation objects and he keeps on sleeping, meaning he feels drowsy. Even if he were to take a walk to stop the drowsiness and then again he comes back or she comes back, it is the drowsiness which is making that happen. So he or she might drink tea or talk to people or whatever and take a bath and all that, and again come back trying to meditate. So what they found out is japa is the right way of doing things. Yes, it is true, but japa is not meditation. Japa is a repetition. So you start with repetition and stop and get into dhyana with the dharana. But since the dharana has not happened, the dhyana will not be there, so he cannot attain samadhi. So what we are trying to achieve is a nirvikalpa samadhi. And nirvikalpa samadhi can only happen when there is no japa, there is no tapa, there is nothing like that. But people get, again, their mind goes into utterance, so that becomes again ritual. So they go back to om chanting, they go back to soham chanting, or they go back to whatever their belief system was. And they get stuck up there, because the maximum they can achieve is a savikalpa samadhi, not the nirvikalpa kind. That means they can only look at the saguna Brahman, they cannot look at the nirguna Brahman because of this attachment. The fourth one, along with this, happens is restlessness. The person gets restless. The tendency of the mind is to get restless with whatever it is. So the person ability to think is totally gone. He or she thinks that, oh, this is what I am and I should have been here and I'm not there. So the person becomes restless. So why this happens? This happens because of the barrage of vasanas we have carried, the impressions we have carried over lives and lives and lives, which are like piles and piles of trash. So each person has a different kind of trash, and what he or she is bringing in, we don't know. So the first thing the person has to do is to set up the vairagya, because there is no point in marrying the trash. So he or she should look every other relationship he or she has as made up of the same trash, and it stinks. So it is better that the person starts vairagya in his mind. If that doesn't happen, then the person gets stuck. So what Krishna says here is that yataha nischarati manaha chanchalam astiram tataha niyabhyah etat atmani eva vasham nayet. Person should restrain this fleeting state of the mind, which basically brings in drowsiness and restlessness. The doubt and this ritual brings in restlessness, and the drowsiness is the state of the mind when it goes into tamas, and restlessness happens when it is rajas. So basically the person never stays in sattva. If he doesn't stay in sattva, he can never realize anything, let alone the nirguna Brahman. He cannot even get the saguna Brahman, because he is attached to the concept what he thinks either to be right or wrong, or he keeps on searching for that guru to appear, and that doesn't happen. So that is the reason the Bhuta Shuddhi or the Bhakti Yoga talks about setting one idol, one God, which will supersede everything. That means you are uncluttering your mind. So the first thing that needs to be done when you go to the puja room is to mentally remove all the photographs and establish only one deity in your mind. And you should allow the other deity to go away in your mind. The best way of doing is also by hand. You remove all the photographs in that puja room, keep only one idol. That's very difficult now, because mind doesn't want that to happen, because the mind is conditioned to believe that, wait a minute, am I doing it right? I don't think so. Otherwise, why are people having so many idols at home? That means there should be some reason. So by keeping only one, I'm not going to achieve anything. So I need to have all the gods, otherwise I will become restless. So the satisfaction here is that I should exist, number one, and I should not get restless, number two. The very act of removal of those photographs, either in the mind or in your physically doing it, is to unclutter and let go of the fear. What is the fear here? Fear here is God is going to punish me for this. What will the God think? What will my family members think? What will this person think? What will my mother think? What will happen to that? And my son is studying. What if his studies is stopped? What if the vastu goes wrong? What if this happens? What if that happens? All of this comes into force with greater force because the person believes that he came with all of these God photographs when he was born. He forgets that when he was conceived in the womb, there was no concept of any God or any deity or anything at all. It was only Brahman, nothing else. But once he comes out of the womb, also he was still Brahman. And that's the reason child of 7 years or 8 years of age, until then they have a very nice twinkling eyes because they don't have this kalmasha. What is kalmasha? Kalmasha is a way to see the world the way others want them to see. And all our eyes by now have turned real toxic. We are not the same people as we were when we were born. Our eyes was full with luster, full shining and innocent eyes. They didn't have anything on purpose. They just existed. Yes, there is ignorance, but that's blissful eyes. Today, we have too much of knowledge of everything, but it is toxic eyes. Toxicity in terms of I like this, I don't like that. It should be like this, it should not be like that. So we are already in duality. So we have married duality completely. We can't come out of duality. The very fact that we can't remove a single idol from the puja room is because we are number one in doubt, number two, we are in duality. Just try this. You will not be able to remove anything at all because the fear will immediately take over. So the another hindrance, major hindrance comes on spirituality is fear. Fear of punishment. The person feels that he or she would be punished badly by the God. Actually, he has gone in search of the God. Now, how does a bhakta be tortured by the person who has so much of compassion? He forgets all about it, or she forgets all about it. That person feels that no, 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 if I do this, then that God will feel bad, and this God will feel bad. So this creates drowsiness, so he will not do anything about it at all. He will push it to the corner, and he is always restless. Now, these are the two things which keep on happening all the time. So, Savikalpa Samadhi is the maximum thing a person would get. He will not or she will not get the supreme bliss, which is Sat, Chit Ananda. That Chidananda Rupam can only come when a person transcends the Chitta. But Chittas are the one which are torturing or what we call as an identity of the person. So the Jnana Marga talks about how to come out of the Chitta. The Bhakti Marga talks about how to surrender to a deity. Both are the same, but different in approach. So now, if I don't surrender to one God, then whom am I surrendering to? Nobody. So I am still with the ego that I cannot surrender to one God. So he will never get either Savikalpa or Nirvikalpa. Nirvikalpa is too difficult to get. Even Savikalpa is not possible. So, what Krishna is saying is that he has to work out on removing these distractions. If the person were to do it and can establish his mind and intellect on that, then he is proceeding. So, what happens then? He says, Prashanta manasam hi enam yoginam sukham uttamam upaiti shanta rajasam Brahmabhutam akalmasham. Now this person has transcended the rajas and tamas, and his mind is filled with peace. Why peace? What is this peace? Peace happens when the duality is removed. If the duality exists, this versus that exist, then there is no way the person can be in peace. So yoginam sukham uttamam. Now this yogi is in the uttama, highest state of the mind, which is bliss. Upaiti shanta rajasam, and his passions movement towards tamas has completely ended. Brahmabhutam akalmasham. Kalmasha is the taints of the vasana. And every vasana has a taint. Every belief is itself a vasana. So one has to transcend the belief system, because all the belief system is created by the humans. If why Vedas are called as apaurushaya, because it came from the nature in the mind of the rishi who wrote it, and he never claimed that it is mine. But for the other documentation which supported the Vedas is all paurushaya, which means that all written by a human being or experienced and explained by the human being. Out of that, the 10 Upanishads proclaim what is truly the state of bliss. So that's the reason Shankaracharya took this Dashopanishad. He didn't take all the Upanishads, saying that these are the Upanishads which will take you. So a person should then establish himself with one such Upanishad, if he is going by one tradition, and follow it completely. So some people have belief in Madhva, let's say. Okay, then that person should go through only that, shouldn't go into the followers of Madhva, meaning that person should not now redistribute himself towards all the disciples of Madhva, or go to the Dasa Sahitya and all of that. That will be a distraction. He or she will get lost in that. Same thing with Shankaracharya. If I believe in Shankara's teaching, then I better be with Shankara. Shankara is my guru. No, not the disciples of Shankara. The Shankara himself is the guru, and I'll follow exactly what is taken in one of his scriptures, his own written one, not the Saundarya Lahari or the Lalita Sahasranama or Aparoksha Anubhuti or whatever it is, one of it only, where I can either establish as a Jnana Marga or as a Bhakti. So if I wanted to do Bhakti, then I will go only Saundarya Lahari. Or if I'm going by the Jnana Marga, then I only take Aparoksha Anubhuti or the Bhaja Govindam or Viveka Chudamani. Let us say I want to go by the Jnana Marga, and I believe that the explanation in the Viveka Chudamani is perfect. That's all I require. I require Shankara, the image of Shankara, because he is my guru. So in the puja room, I'll remove all the idols, only keep Shankara, and I'll keep only Viveka Chudamani book. That's all. There won't be anything else in that puja room other than these two. Now, can be done physically, this is kaya, or it can be done through vacha, that is speech, and manasa, mind. So first I will establish Shankara in my mind and the Viveka Chudamani in my mind, and that's it. Over. In the puja room, I don't see anybody except these two, even though it is filled with 100 different photographs and idols. I will not do it because I need to achieve the Savikalpa Samadhi immediately. Then only I can work on the Nirvikalpa. If I have so much of distraction of doing so many pujas and anushtana for each one of these deities, gods, and whatever that books and reading so many slokas and stotras and all that, it's going to be not only time consuming, but it is also a waste of energy. The virya has to be taken into consideration. So the energy should be properly utilized. If I'm a Madhva follower, then I keep myself that Madhva the idol of Madhva in my mind, and I take one of the Kriti of Madhva and I just follow that. I will not follow any disciples of Madhva. If I am a follower of Ramanujacharya, then I take the idol of Ramanujacharya and one Kriti of Ramanuja. That's all. So that's all I'm going to be doing. I will not engage myself in anything other than these. Then the mind becomes sthira. Once it becomes sthira, it is easy to now accomplish. No matter who says what, if my wife were to say you've gone mad at it and you should not do like this, you should offer prayer to all the deities and God, I will not listen. I don't care. I will not do any one of the ritualistic puja. What I mean to say is that, let us say we have the Ganesh Chaturthi. For me, Shankara has every one of these deities. Nothing else is there. Okay, now here comes confusion and doubt. Should I take Shankara, which is a human form, or Ganesha, the God form? Who is better? Ganesha is better or Shankara is better? Ganesha will remove the obstacles, whereas Shankara might not remove obstacle. Now the doubt seeps in. Again, the mind puts back to wherever it was. It again starts with doubt, and then it then starts looking into rites and rituals and how it should be done, then gets into the drowsiness mode, and then goes into the restlessness mode. So it's not very easy to transcend. So all the saints, they did one good thing. They stayed with one deity. You see anywhere, they stayed with either Jnana Marga or they went on the Bhakti Marga with one deity. Ramkrishna Paramahamsa went with Kali. Vivekananda went with the Jnana Marga. He never had any deity. He went by the Jnana Marga. So, if you take any other persons, they all went with one deity, either Krishna or Rama or whatever they had. And for them, every god was a manifestation of Rama. For some people, it was a manifestation of Krishna. So that's all what we are supposed to take. Because the ultimate aim is not to have mind conditioned. And this is the supreme bliss. This is called as nirvana, unconditioned. So one has to avoid the ambiguity about what he or she is doing, because that will bring in back the sense and sense objects plus the expectation from those sense objects. So dispassion is the first and foremost thing. Vairagya. and Vairagya of God in the deity form. That's the most difficult thing to achieve. Without that Vairagya, Nirvikalpa Samadhi is impossible. He should see God in everything, not only his or her deity. But many people would not be able to achieve that because they hold that to be truth. So then he doesn't become free of sin. He still becomes tainted with sin. What is the sin here? Attachment. He is attached to the deity, cannot give up. So Totapuri pressed on the forehead of Ramakrishna to tell him what he should do. Then only he was able to let go of Kali. So we need to do this. What we need to do? We need to have dispassion, that is, there is no doer. If there is no doer, then there is no deity. I am doing to a deity, so I am existing. So no doer, dispassion. Sinlessness is no ego, and I'm looking it as a universal. So in universal, there is no separate God. Then supreme peace arises because my mind is expanded, it is not contracted. And being in peace, I'm always in bliss. Just like the sun doesn't care about whether it is shining on the river or the pool of dirt or a nice pool of lake or river or whatever, or on the ground or whatever, wherever it is shining. It doesn't matter. So then he concludes here by saying that Yunjan enam sadatmanam yogi vikataha kalmashaha sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukham ashnute. So now his mind is engaged in yoga. This yogi is free of all the sins. He easily comes in contact with himself, this Brahman, and enjoys the infinite supreme bliss because he doesn't exist. So now he is liberated because there are no more samskaras, there are no more vasanas left for him to achieve. So this is what he is experiencing. His ego-centeredness is gone. The individual soul is just for indicating what it is, the attributes. The universal soul is what really exists. The individual soul is movement. The universal soul has no movement. The individual soul has identification. The supreme or the universal soul doesn't have any identification. The individual soul is ignorance. The universal soul is knowledge. For the conceptualization or for making it and easy to understand, we have this concept of individual soul. That is, this is called as Vyavaharika Satya. wherein an individual soul called as Atma exists. Yes, indeed it exists in ignorance, because it is able to do all those things what the Supreme Soul is able to do. But the Supreme Soul has got nothing to do with the individual soul. Meaning, if we were to take a software development thing, we call it as superclass. That is not what we are talking about. It has got no attributes at all. It has got no relationship with the individual soul. The individual soul borrows the energy from the Supreme Soul, but the Supreme Soul has got no connection with the individual soul. That means the sukha and dukkha, the mana, apamana, and all of that is, and the sins and the saint and all these qualities are within the individual soul, has got no manifestation or no doership in the universal. So this clarifies that tat tvam asi. So when we say I exist, this I exist in ignorance. And it does all that what that will do. Tvam. Tvam is tat tvam asi. I become that. That one has nothing to do. This one does in its presence, but doesn't transfer it back to that. So there's no way the individual person can transfer it to the Supreme Person, saying that, yeah, you are my, I am your dasa, or I am your attribute, I am your servant. So I am moving all my papa and punya and everything, karma and all of that to you. No, sorry, wrong number. I've got nothing to do with you. If you want to become my servant, fine, you can. But don't expect me to do anything other than blessing you. That's all I can do. I cannot take what you are doing. It's your doing. It's not, I don't do anything at all. You do it out of rajas, and you suffer because of tamas. And there is sattva, the pure essence. You are that essence, but then it's your problem. It's not my problem. So, jiva is essentially that self. So, if I am a jivi, the same jiva is everywhere. So, I am no distinction than the other. So, this is how we can elevate our mind to the next level. So, adhisthanam is to bring the mind in tandem with what is the reality. From a microcosmic and macrocosmic standpoint. First, we need to see the self in all beings, and then we have to see all beings in oneself. That's how the Brahman is understood. So now he is understanding that even though the moon seems to have split up in different buckets filled with water, just because one of the bucket falls down and the water comes out, that moon which is appearing up above, don't get anywhere worried or worked up for the water which is fallen on the ground. Whereas the next bucket sitting next to this bucket, because it considers that this bucket is related to that bucket as myself, and then this is my husband or wife or child or whatever, then this bucket suffers as soon as this bucket falls down and wails and cries and worries and does everything to get back the bucket which was filled with water. As far as the wailing and the sorrow and all that grief and goes, the moon which is shining on the other buckets and the water has no compassion to bring this bucket back to life. It is compassion enough to shine on every bucket without considering anything, without bias. But it cannot bring back to life that bucket which had fallen. But when the water is poured up into that bucket, that Jivi is again back. Not the same Jivi, not a different Jivi, it is part of the same moon which is come, which is there all the time. This is how the Brahman is. And because we want certain things to work the way we want, this bucket establishes itself in a concept called as Savikalpa Samadhi or Saguna Brahman, because it gets support that exists and I might not exist, but tomorrow I will again exist back, which is better. There is little bit of ignorance, but still it's an ignorance. Little bit or more bit doesn't really matter. What we are talking here is removal of complete ignorance, meaning to say that the Savikalpa or the Saguna is not true. Only the Nirguna is true. So the bucket falls down. He is aware that he is neither the moon shining in the bucket, nor the water in the bucket, nor the bucket itself. He is beyond all that seen or unseen. And once he comes to know that through Jnana, sees himself in all and all in himself, but he doesn't do anything. There is no karya for him to get karma. He only does kriya because he now knows there is just the moon. He doesn't say, I am that moon. Again, if I am that moon, then again he is back into the bucket. It's just the moon, or it's just the sun, or whatever that person can have. Below that have all manifestations as gods and humans and animals and plants and rocks and lakes and river and stream, and all of that are the manifestation. The unmanifested is just that, tat. It has nothing to do with anything. Now he says, Yaha mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati tasya aham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. Very beautiful verse, 30th one, where he sees that he existed unconditionally. The manifestation was conditioned reality. It's still a reality, but it is based upon condition. So once the person goes out of condition, then there it's the matter. He is realized. So he who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, he doesn't get separated from me, nor I separate him from me. The me in me. So basically, this is what is the experience of Brahman, Tat. That from that sky, if we were to take that as an example, from that sky, clouds, rain, water, stream, land, and the vegetables, and the humans, and the animals, and the whatever we can say, realm of existences can be perceived as reality. But sky exists irrespective of the condition. Whereas the clouds come into existence because of condition. The humans come into existence because of conditions. The plant come into existence because of condition. The rivers come into existence because of condition. The lakes are formed due to condition. Then the land forms due to conditions. And every conditioned reality will go through dissolution because it is conditioned anyway. So how can a person sitting on earth, which is rotating so fast, can think that he can stay fixed? Not possible. A sadhaka feels that he will do something about this turning around, and he tries and comes to know that's not possible. Then when he gives that up, he becomes siddha. Whereas a pamara thinks that he will definitely be able to change this nature of turning of earth. So he believes that if he puts a lot of effort, he will get it, but not analyzing or not even understanding that even the blood in his body is circulating, the air is circulating, he is circulating between his home and office. Basically, he goes there and he again comes back. It's again a circle. It's only circle within a circle within a circle within a circle. There's nothing called as straight line. It's only going in circle. Once the person knows that he is indeed circling, he becomes a sadhaka. And once he knows how to escape that circle, he becomes siddha. So the basic thing we need to understand is that Ishvara is beyond all manifestation. The Jiva has got nothing to do with Ishvara. This is exactly what Madhvacharya proved. That Paramatma Satya is different from the Atma Satya. So Atma can never merge with Paramatma. That's correct. Because they are separate, Dvaita. Now the concept of Advaita is that there is no concept of Atma. So in that case, only Paramatma exists. So if we take a Dvaita view, world is real and Brahman is real, perfect understanding, he will not identify himself with Atma, so only Paramatma, so the surrender happens and there ends the matter. If taken the Dvaita view. Advaita view is that not having a permanent self, the Jiva, Atma. Because that is ignorance. It's like the bucket and the moon. So whether we go this approach or that approach, they both lead to the same outcome, that is Paramatma is only Satya. There is individual souls have no Satya on its own. So we have to then decide which one to take. But this works with both. So once he understands this, Krishna says, Sarva Bhutastitam Yam Yaha Mam Bhajati ekatvam astitah sarvatra vartamanah api sahayogi mai vartate. He who worships me as abiding in all the beings, being established in the unity, whatever be his mode of living, such a yogi abides in me. If we take the story of Valmiki, who was a bandit, who was killing people, who was doing all kind of nonsense things, when he met Narada, who came as a Brahmin and he didn't have any money, he wanted to cut him off. And then he said, why don't you go to your home and ask whether these people will take your karma? And from the parents to the wife and to the children, they said no. Then Narada gave him Rama to utter the Rama he could not spell, so he gave him Mara. So he started saying Mara, 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 and it worked. Then he established, then he got liberated. Now, what happens to all the karma he has done? Whether it is called Prarabdha karma or Sanchita karma or Agami karma, whatever karma, what happens to his bad deeds and good deeds? Will they get chance to manifest? No. So when the yogi can see himself as the real himself, the whole karma bandhana is gone. So even though the person was a rapist in this life, or was a person who was stealing, or was a person who used to tell lies or do whatever nonsense things he had done due to ignorance, now that his ignorance is removed, the veil of ignorance is removed, all those stains don't bind him. Such a yogi abides in me. So even though he was the greatest of the sinner, never was available to take that sin because he doesn't exist. The only point of contention for karma to get manifested is thing called as I. If I does not exist, then who is the person to whom this karma should go? No one. So this person is liberated. So the divine love has got no barriers. It doesn't distinguish between a saint and a sinner. It is what it is. Only the sinner will not see this aspect because of ignorance. The saint sees this aspect and then merges himself with that because he now finds it is essenceless to stand out and suffer. Rather, he will leave himself and merge with that supreme. Then the question comes, who is the highest yogi? He is a person who sees himself in every being. Now, intellectually the person might see it, but it is not that. It is complete realization that he or she never existed even for a moment. There was no he in the past separated out of that he, and there was no she in the past cut out of that he. It was always there. And the person who sees himself in everything and sees the equanimity in both pleasure and pain. What does this mean? We can feel the pleasure and the pain, sukha and dukkha. Sukha is the happiness, Dukkha is the unhappiness. Now, these are two states of the same coin. One side is painful, other side is pleasurable, or one side is happiness and other side is unhappiness. This is the feeling which is got. But a person misses the third kind called as equanimity, meaning neither painful nor pleasurable. If a person were to stay in neither painful nor pleasurable, meaning he doesn't consider painful as painful and pleasurable as pleasurable, instead he sees the painful as painful and pleasurable also is painful, then he understands the dukkha. This is what Buddha spoke about, the dukkha satcha. Generally, every human being or every being in this long samsara always would like to make the painful disappear and the pleasurable appear. But the Brahman neither has the attribute of the pain nor pleasure. It's a mental fabrication. So, one who doesn't take the pain and convert that into pleasure, but considers the pleasure also as pain, gets liberated. And he transcends it because he is neither concerned with the pain or with pleasure. So, first, when we say realization is the person who thinks, not thinks, who understand the feeling of pain in the body, in the mind, is same as a pleasurable feeling in the body, in the mind. That means there is no change except for pain, dukkha. And in the 13th chapter, also Krishna says that everything in this world is dukkha. There is no thing called as sukha. The sukha is a mirage. Like a person is running towards river and he sees that there is a puddle of water or a river or a lake or whatever, keeps on running towards it. And while he keeps on running, he falls down, doesn't get that puddle of water or a lake or an oasis or whatever he's running for. But once he starts running against it, he can see the river following him or that oasis following him. This is called as Mrig Trishna. So we all try to enjoy the pain as pleasure. That's the Maya. But reality is only dukkha. The absolute reality is neutrality, neither pain nor pleasure. So the person will not too much get associated with the pleasurable feeling or with the painful feeling. Then he is realized. So he is the greatest of the yogi. So with that, I'll stop and maybe we can have some questions.
So in the discussion you have mentioned, it was very good. I was in that special blissful mode today. You have mentioned that in Advaitam there is no Atma. It's only one thing called Paramatma. But in Dvaita you have Atma and then you have Bhakti. Why such a great difference? But both are same, right?
Yes, both are same.
I have not understood. I was thinking so far in Advaitam also there is Atma. Finally, this Atma is completely it will get moksha. Atma will get moksha. That's what I was thinking. But today's your explanation gave me something different feeling. That is no Atma.
The Atma, what we call in Atma is Advaita, is the ignorance. The Jnana will remove that Atma. When we say it merges with the Paramatma, means Atma can't stay, right?
Yeah, see, the thing is, we have discussed that this Atma, for moksha purpose, we are doing all this.
Correct.
So, Atma is bound by this ignorance. That means Atma is there. And Atma is nothing but that same Brahman in this case.
No, that is why you just see the explanation in the Viveka Chudamani or elsewhere about example about the snake and the rope, or the pot and the clay, and or these buckets of water and the moon. If you say Atma is there, yes, the attributes of the Brahman is there in that. But if the bucket were to be falling, will the moon be worried about it?
So our Atma is like a reflection of...
Yes, Bimba Pratibimba.
But I was thinking different. I was thinking our mind is the reflection of all that.
No, what is a mind? Mind should have some energy, right?
Yeah.
Mind is an instrument. So there is an Atma which will drive the mind, correct? Agreeable? Now, this, for mind to arise and pass away, or the chittas to arise and pass away, there should be chit. And this chit, the mind with what we call as Atma, confuses itself to be the chit. Okay, so it thinks itself is a Chidananda Rupa. Once the ignorance is gone, what is ignorance here? That I am a self-being. Instead, now it sees itself in all forms. Then that madness of myself goes away. That's what he says, right? One who sees me in everything and him in me, then he gets liberated. Correct? See, sarva bhuta sthitam yaha mam bhajati ekatvam sarvataha vartamanaha api sahayogi mai vartate. It means this Brahman, this moon, is there in all the buckets.
Yes.
So what happens to him then? If he realizes the moon is there in all the buckets, then what happens to those moon which are there in individual bucket? It goes away.
Okay, is it like this? There is nothing called Atman. It's only Brahman.
Yes, that's basically what it is. There is no Atma, not Atman. So whenever we use the word Atma, they replace it by Brahman. Sorry, Atman. Whenever we use the word Brahma, they use the word Brahman.
Okay. That means whatever that energy, it's only one source. That's called Brahman. There is nothing else.
There's nothing else. So I can consider...
But in Dvaita philosophy, so this is called God in between.
Yes. So now to erase that out of my mind, that I am that reality, it doesn't happen automatically. I require to surrender to the God, to the deity. Can be Hari, can be Vishnu, can be Rama, can be Krishna, or whatever it is. Then the mind dislodges itself from this madness of I, because it has surrendered completely to that, gets into Savikalpa Samadhi, and then leaves that to attain Nirvikalpa Samadhi.
So Dvaita reaches up to Nirvikalpa finally?
It has to reach, provided he gives up that, right? So now in the case of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he was stuck with Kali.
That was Dvaiti till then.
Yes. So then when Totapuri pressed his third eye or the Agya Chakra, then he got into the Nirvikalpa state of Dhyana, where he did not exist. That he was not there, right?
Yes.
So the he is what? Atma.
So Dvaita is, there is one step so that you can easily go to Nirvikalpa.
Correct.
And Advaita is the step change.
The Advaita is jumping directly.
Yeah.
You leave
from here to there. There is no in between.
There's no in between. So you drop the... See, everybody will drop the pot. That's for sure. Once you say, I'm a Jnani, he knows that there is no pot without a clay. That becomes very clear. But why are you holding the clay? Clay becomes individual.
So in Advaita, there is nothing called Atmananda. It's only Brahmananda.
Yes, correct.
So Atmananda you can expect in Dvaita.
Atmananda is Dvaita, and that is the reason Vishishta Advaita said that yes, there is Brahmananda, Atmananda, there is a link between Atmananda and Brahmananda.
So Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara is applicable to Dvaita, Vishishta Advaita only.
Yes.
For Advaita, there is nothing of any of this. Nothing. It is just here to there.
And that's the reason, but it is called as non-dual. Dvaita. Not two. It is non-dual.
What is this then? Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra is, I understand, it's clearly written by Ramanujacharya and also Madhvacharya. And also Shankaracharya has written.
No, Badarayana. The Badarayana has written the this Brahma Sutra.
What exactly that talks about?
Brahman. What is Brahman?
Sutra?
What is Brahman? So all the three rishis or the gurus saw it in their own way. So Shankara took it from a very non-dualistic standpoint. The Vishishta Advaita Ramanuja took it from the motherly affection which can be seen in the Brahma Sutra. And the Badarayana's way of writing by Madhvacharya in his commentaries, he looked at from the divine and the person who is a devotee. Okay, so if you read the Shankara's Bhashya about the Brahma Sutras, you will only see non-dual into everything. Straight. What is Brahman? This is what.
So real difference they have differentiated at that level.
Yes.
In their Bhashya.
Yes, in their Bhashya. So Shankara Bhashya. See, this is good. See, we have to see our state of mind. This is good for people like this. If I have a concept of a bucket and water and moon shining on the bucket has some relationship with the moon itself, I need to then establish my connection with that moon which has no connection. Still, I feel there should be connection. Then the right path for me is Dvaita. Okay, now I am sure that there is no way a connection can be established between the moon which is shining there and the moon which is there on the bucket. Even though it has the attributes of that moon, but that is not really the moon. I can see that it is shaking, but the moon up there is not shaking because the water is shaking here, right? So the moon here is under fear, but the moon there is not in any fear. So for those people who can understand this jnana, for them Advaita is the right marga. But there are special causes due to which there is a disturbance in the moon here, but that actual moon remains as moon. Then for those people, Ramanujacharya's way of attaining is the best way.
So there is nothing called Shankaracharya followers or this Madhvacharya followers. It is based on which degree he is in. That means in which grade he is in.
Correct. So
if it's a basic one, better to follow the Madhva so that from there you can reach Shankara.
Correct. If you are already Shankara, there is no need to go to Madhva.
Yeah. So telling that my Guru is Shankara has got no meaning here. It is just what they have taught is important.
Yes.
Which one is applicable to me? If I am really a high school student, better to follow high school topic.
Exactly. Why do you study PhD topic in a high school?
Yes.
That is better.
So the society is formed in a totally in the wrong way.
And that's the reason there is always a fight. If you remember,
the people who fight, they don't have any knowledge about it.
Yes. If you see, but some months ago you had sent me one Madhva person abusing both the Shankara tradition and the Ramanuja tradition.
Yeah.
Correct. And that guy spoke for 1.5 hours trying to prove that why Madhva philosophy is the right philosophy.
So he is not following even Madhva also there by abusing others.
Yes, that is correct.
You have to see God everywhere.
Yes, so when you become a pseudo God, it becomes a big problem.
Yeah, that is our problem in our Vedic traditional education system. Actually, it is not a tradition. It is something misdirected one.
Correct. It is very much like that. Very correct. So that is where the problem comes. And we
become their Shishya because they are the only people speaking.
Yes. And the problem is also that if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, there is interpretation done by the Madhva scholars. They write from Madhva perspective. There are people from Ramanuja philosophers and they write from Ramanuja perspective. There are Shankara followers and they write it from Shankara perspective. So if you go by ISKCON, they talk by ISKCON perspective. So each person puts his view into it.
And without seeing moksha themselves.
Yes. They become biased and they don't realize that the truth is unbiased. It is not having pain and pleasure. But when we hear two people talk, we get either pain or pleasure. If I'm a Shankara follower and I find the Madhva tradition people, they abuse and I feel agitated, irritated, uncontrollable sorrow appears in my mind that why are they doing this to our Acharya? What has he done?
Yes, those three people have done a wonderful job for humanity.
Yes, they have done what they were supposed to do. You do what you want to do. Why are you fighting with what they have done? What is your contribution? See, the problem is nobody has any contribution. No mathas have done their contribution. They keep on propagating whatever was taught by somebody and they keep on fighting over it. It's like a parrot. My question would be, what have you done of what was taught to you? That is most important than what they taught. And all will be in the Puranas and all will be giving very big discourses. That is not what is required. Whether what Buddha said or what Jain said or what that fellow said, that is not the question. The question is, what have you done out of the philosophy? What is your achievement in that philosophy? What is that you have seen?
Sanatana Dharma is only experience and then talk.
Yes.
You cannot talk somebody's experience because you have not experienced it.
And all that we hear today is the dogmatic the dogmatic views of what they think they said.
Mm-hmm.
That is the problem. And that's the reason there is a fight on every given topic because nobody seems to experience themselves. They keep on uttering what was said some years, some centuries ago, some time ago, and they keep on fighting.
That is the unfortunate part of this Vedic communication to this human world. It should be experience based, not just teaching based.
Correct. That is where the gap, that is where it is failing. And you see, when I read the book of ISKCON, they cleverly change the meaning.
I have seen during your this one sessions, I was referring to ISKCON and then the Chinmaya machine and all that. Then I found how people interpret the way they want to interpret. It is not the true meaning.
Correct. And that is a difficult part now. Now, if I'm a ISKCON follower, I'll keep on shouting about Aurobindo, or I will talk about this Ramakrishna Math or whatever it is, because I find their interpretation differing with the interpretation of ISKCON. And if I am from Ramakrishna Math, then I will abuse the other people, because I find what is interpreted by my guru is the best one.
Yeah.
So basically, we follow the interpretation rather than experiencing it ourselves.
Correct. Thank you, Vilas.
No
For
problem.
today, maybe I have to join another meeting.
Same here. Even I have to join at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Any
It was
questions?
nice.
Oh, sure.
I got a special experience today. I was just closing my eyes and listening to you.
Okay. Great. Any question, Lata, Padmashri, Sri Hari?
Okay, so I was just looking at the obstacles, and I already had all these obstacles,
Right.
and I have tried to overcome it. So that's what I was thinking.
Yes. Good.
Doubt whether my path is right or wrong. I think I have asked you a number of times that.
Correct.
And then restless mind. These two I had always.
Yeah.
Rituals and all I never had, all that kind of thing. So I don't have any specific belief system and things like that. So that is not a problem. And also drowsiness was not a problem for me. But my problem was this doubt on the correct path, the wrong path, and the restless mind.
Yes, and you are on the right path, and you are getting experience of what you should be experiencing.
Yeah, so those are the things which I was thinking. And anyway, all that reflected consciousness. So once I have seen that, long back I have seen that moon during my early morning hours or sleep, or I don't know, dream or whatever it is. So that is so etched in my mind, so that I will not forget what is reflected consciousness, what is Atman.
Correct.
So I don't have that doubt. Anyway, it was good. It was a good summary of what we have been all talking for long.
Yes. Okay. If you don't have anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
day.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Good day.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you then. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.